After becoming one of the best teams in college football nearly a decade ago, the Ducks were on a bit of a downhill slope until recently, as studs like HERBERT and JEVON have helped Oregon back to relevance. So let's talk about the top 10 current NFL players that played for the Ducks. Although he struggled early on with the Ducks, FREEMAN eventually found his footing with the team as a senior after struggling with injuries throughout his past few years with the team. But even though he ended up better than he started, FREEMAN still went undrafted and was a free agent for a few weeks until he was picked up by Oakland. Then throughout the next few years, FREEMAN bounced around practice squads until he eventually was able to get some in-game action in Houston. Unlike many others on this list, JUWAN didn't spend his entire collegiate career in Eugene and instead transferred as a senior. In his 1 year with the team, JUWAN was able to produce pretty well, but not well enough to get drafted as he flew under the radar. Thankfully for my man, he didn't have to wait all that long as he was picked up by New Orleans only a few days later. After bouncing between practice squad and active roster for most of his rookie year, my man eventually made the team and now has a decent bit of potential moving forward. As opposed to the previous two guys on this list, ROYCE was one of the highest rated recruits in his class, and although there was quite a bit of hype surrounding the stud, ROYCE lived up to it as he had 2 second-team All-PAC 12 nods and 1 first-team as one of the best running backs in his conference. So with that in mind, it wasn't much of a surprise that he was able to go in the middle of the 3rd round at Denver and earn the starting spot going into the season. After a pretty strong start to the year, rough enough, an ankle injury sidelined him, and when he came back, he lost a starting job to fellow rookie stud Philip Lindsay. A pretty tough break for someone who was great in Eugene, and ultimately his downfall as he never got the starting job back. And over the past few months, my man ROYCE has been waived by 2 different teams and is now likely the 3rd string in Houston. Throughout his time with the Ducks, Troy was able to work his way up the ranks, and so as a senior was 2nd team All-PAC 12. But even then, my man still went undrafted until he was later picked up by Cincinnati nearly a week later. Although he was able to get some in-game action, eventually Troy was waived by the Bengals and then New England within a week of each other. But surprisingly enough, he was claimed off of waivers the very next day by the then St. Louis Rams. And unlike his time in Cincinnati and New England, Troy was able to find his own with the team and in fact stayed with them for 5 years as he put together solid performance after solid performance. And so after doing his thing in LA, Troy was a free agent in 2021 and was able to sign a 4-year, $24 million deal with Cleveland after his best season to date. After a pretty stellar high school career, it wasn't much of a surprise that Panay was able to start from the very beginning. But even though he did well in the games that he did play in, a high ankle sprain ended his year before it really even started. But no matter the case, Panay came back big the following season, as he was arguably one of the best linemen in college football, and because of it won the Outland and Morris trophies, and upon that was a unanimous All-American. Fast forward to the following year, and after opting out of the virus-shortened 2020 season, Panay declared for the 2021 draft as likely one of the highest rated recruits in his class. And after going 7th overall to Detroit, the hype was real for my man, but I would say he's been able to live up to it with a pretty dang solid rookie year. After doing his thing on both sides of the ball in high school, it was not much of a surprise that he was able to carry that swag to Oregon. Just like Panay, JEVON was a stud from the very beginning in Eugene with back-to-back great years with the Ducks, and also opted out of the 2020 season. But even though he missed a year of football, going into the draft, JEVON was a pretty high-rated prospect, and so it only made sense that he went 36th overall to Miami. Even though he's not one of the biggest names in his draft class, JEVON sure as heck has played like it, as he has quickly become one of the best safeties in football. If we were ranking players based on how well they did in college, then Marcus would likely be at the very top as one of the best college football players ever. I mean, not only was he first team All-PAC 12 3 straight seasons, but as a junior won practically every award possible, as he was able to become one of the biggest names in college football. So with that in mind, it was not much of a surprise that he went 2nd overall with all the hype in the world around his future play. And as a rookie he did pretty solid, but at the very least proved that he had potential. And then in the following year was able to take his game to another level, but following his sophomore campaign, really wasn't able to replicate the same success as he struggled over the next few years. Well, fast forward to 2019, and after the team picked up Ryan Tanny from Miami, it was a sign of times for Marcus as he lost the starting job mid-season. Following half a decade in the Music City, my man signed with the Raiders as a backup to Carr. And throughout his 3 years with the team, he did pretty well when he played, and in fact, it seems like it was good enough to get a 2-year deal with Atlanta. And it seems like not as a backup this time, but with an opportunity to start once again. And so I guess we'll have to see what happens. As opposed to some of the other guys on this list, ARIK wasn't able to make an impact immediately since he only started one game as a freshman. But nonetheless, throughout his time with the Ducks, ARIK was able to carve out a name for himself little by little, and as a junior showed enough to catch the NFL's attention. Even though he didn't put up some ridiculous stats in Eugene, it didn't matter as he was still able to go 17th overall to the good old San Francisco 49ers. But even though he was drafted super high, my man went into the regular season as the 5th string D-end, and although he was able to work his way up to the depth chart, he still wasn't able to do all that much. Nonetheless, going into the following season with the new head coach, now my man was the 3rd string behind DeForest and Quinn and Dial. But sadly, after yet another pretty good season, ARIK was placed on IR with a shoulder injury, as his year ended before it really began. Although he was looking to bounce back the following season, a broken hand once again ended his year on a sour note, as he was only able to play in a few games. So needless to say, in his first few years, ARIK had already gone through quite a few road bumps, but over the next 3 seasons was able to find his own, and in fact is coming off his best year to date. Unlike his San Francisco bud and ARIK, DeForest was on demon timing with the Ducks. As only a junior, DeForest was 2nd team All-Pac-12 and considered a first-round talent. And so even though he could have gone into the draft after such a season, my man decided to come back as a senior to prove that he could take his game to another level. Well, I would say he did that and much more, as not just first team All-Conference or the Conference Defensive Player of the Year, but first team All-American as one of the best defensive players in college football. Now my man DeForest was not just a first-round talent, but a potential top 10 pick, and so he went 7th overall to San Francisco. From the very beginning with the team, DeForest was able to do his thing in the Bay as he made the PFWA All-Rookie team, and following that, over the next few years, DeForest was able to improve his game little by little, and throughout the past 3 seasons has made back-to-back-to-back Pro Bowls with San Francisco and now Indianapolis. Just like DeForest, Justin had a stellar career in Eugene, and as a senior was named first team All-Pac-12 as the only player in the FBS with at least 5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and an interception. Following such a great time with the Ducks, surprisingly enough, Justin fell to the 5th round where he was picked up by Denver. And although he was coming off of such a great collegiate career, Justin just wasn't able to find his footing with the Broncos as he was waived after only 1 year with the team. Thankfully enough, he was claimed off of waivers the very next day by the good old LA Rams with hopes of bouncing back under the bright lights of Los Angeles. And dope enough, over the past few years with the team, he has done pretty well, and although he tore his PAC last season, he was still able to get back and help LA win a Super Bowl. It didn't take long for Terrance to get his opportunity to do his thing, as he won the starting left cornerback job early and was able to put together a pretty solid freshman performance, and upon that a pretty good career in Eugene, and so following his junior season he decided to leave for the NFL. Even though he did pretty well with the Ducks, Terrance was still one of the last 3 picks of the entire draft as he joined the good old Dallas Cowboys, and throughout the next 6 years my man bounced around from team to team and just recently signed a 1-year deal with New England. From the very beginning, it seemed like Justin was meant to play with the Ducks since my man was born in good old Eugene. So if you fast forward to the end of his time in high school, it wasn't all that much of a surprise that he chose Oregon, as it was one of his only 2 FBS offers. And so considering the lack of attention on my man, it wasn't all that much of a surprise that he went into Eugene as the backup, but he really wasn't for long. Midway through his first season, Justin was able to take the starting reins and never look back. And over his last 2 seasons with the team was a football academic All-American of the Year, as he consistently was top-notch on and off the field. Nonetheless, after Justin put together an impressive career in Eugene, he was expected to go top 10, and in fact went 6th overall to the LA Chargers. But even though he went very high off the board, not many could have anticipated just how good he would play as only a rookie. Following an accidental puncture of Tyrod Taylor's lung, Justin was able to start week 2 against Kansas City, and although they eventually lost that game in overtime, Justin's play impressed the football world, and just like at Oregon, earned him the starting spot early on. Anyways, over the next few games, Justin was able to quickly become one of the best young quarterbacks in football, and in fact ended the season as the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Not too shabby of a start for the Eugene native, but only the beginning of what is shaping up to be a potential Hall of Fame career. I mean, considering that he has already been able to make a Pro Bowl in only his 2nd year with the Chargers, I would say his future is looking very bright. As one of the highest rated recruits in his class, it was not that much of a surprise that JEVON showed out in Eugene. In his first season with the Ducks, my man was a Pac-12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, as he was able to quickly establish himself as one of the best defensive ends in college football. So with that in mind, his back-to-back first-team All-Pac-12 nods, Morris Trophy, and unanimous All-American selection seemed to follow suit. And so as you could guess, considering his ridiculous resume, it was not much of a surprise that JEVON was one of the top prospects in the draft, and ended up going 5th overall to the New York Football Giants. And although it's no guarantee, I think JEVON could be a star on the next level, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Nearly a decade ago, Oregon was a powerhouse as one of the best teams in college football. Until recently, as they've been able to produce some great talent like ARIK and DEFOREST, with newcomers JEVON, PANAY, KEVON, and Justin looking to change the narrative real quick. Do you guys think that Oregon will get back to that national championship contender level, or is that all in the past? Let me know in the comments down below.
Watch out, the storm is going to be unleashed.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyway, see you all soon, and peace out.